Today's lesson is over nets in geometry. The objective is students will be able to manipulate 3D images to make 2D nets and vice versa. To make a 2D net, sorry. So first off, we have some background that I want to make sure you guys realize. First off, we name polygons by the number of sides. So we have triangles, 3 sides, quadrilaterals, 4 sides, and we've done a lot with quadrilaterals. That includes trapezoids, rectangles, rhombuses, squares. That's all in quadrilaterals. Pentagon is 5, hexagon is 6, octagon is 8, decagon is 10. There's also like a septagon is 7. There's a dodecagon is 12, I think. A nonagon is 9. So there's a couple different ones of those, but these are the most common. Then a prism is a 3-dimensional shape made up of 2 bases and rectangle sides. And I put sides in quotes because it depends. They look like, it kind of depends. Sometimes you could look at them as bases, sometimes as sides. It kind of all depends on the prism. If you have a rectangular prism, then the 2 bases are rectangles and all the sides are rectangles. But I put sides because I think that makes a little bit more sense. I think technically a cylinder is not in this category, but I'm going to include that in this one because the formulas end up being fairly similar. So I'm including cylinders in that as well. The bases are just circles. A pyramid is a 3-dimensional shape made up of a base and triangle sides. The triangle sides all meet at the same point at the vertex. The corners are included in this too. Oh, sorry, cones are included in this too. Again, I don't think technically cones are in that. But for our purposes, I'm going to include that. So we name prisms and pyramids by the shapes of their bases. So if you look at this as a triangle prism, so this base is a triangle, this base back here is a triangle. Then if you look, again, every side is a rectangle. So this side down here, and then this side back here. Then we have a square prism. Now, when we get into the prisms that have a quadrilateral for the base, then we can get more specific as far as like a trapezoid prism, a square prism, the bases are squares, a rectangular prism, the bases are rectangles. This is a pentagon prism. Again, this one, the base is on the top. This one, the triangle, the bases were kind of on the side. Then again, we have a cylinder where the bases are circles. And then same thing with pyramids. Triangle pyramid, the base is a triangle. We have square and rectangle pyramids, pentagon pyramids, cones. Again, you can have hexagonal prisms, octagonal prisms, whatever the base is, you can make that. And again, if you look, all these sides are triangles here. Every single one of these has triangle sides, and they all meet at one point, the vertex. So now let's get on to what we're actually talking about today is nets. A net is an arrangement of polygons in a plane which can be folded along the edges to become the faces of a 3-dimensional shape. So I think the best way to look at this is watching one of these videos. I don't actually know if the sound will come through. You might be able to hear it a little bit. But if you watch this, you can kind of see where they fold those up. So a cylinder, they started with that net down there. They folded up the 2 bases. They folded the side. That made a cylinder. So same thing. This is a square prism. And you can see that net down here that then they're folding up. So this is a trapezoid prism. This is the net down here. If they fold it all up, that makes the trapezoid. Or sorry, that makes the prism. A cube, and that's over here. Again, you fold up all the sides. You get the top. So that's what this is all about. That's what the net is. The net is what you could fold everything up to make. That's called a cuboid. That's we'll just call it a square prism. Do some pyramids. Same thing with the cone. The cone looks a little bit strange. That's the one that looks the most unique. That's it. So I think that helps to get kind of a visual, and I can try to explain that as much as I can, but it's kind of hard to see that, and I think a video makes it seem a little bit better. So this is what this is going to be about. It's going to say draw the net for the following 3D figures. In my opinion, it helps if you start with the base and then draw the sides. Now, I will also say, keep in mind that there are several different ways to draw these prisms, so there's not just one right answer. So what I would do for this one, the base is a triangle, so I would start making my triangle. And then all the sides are these rectangles, so I would say here's a rectangle, and there's 3 of them, so here's a rectangle, I would say here's a rectangle. And then the other base is a triangle as well, so I would put this triangle over here. So if you fold that up, fold these sides up and together, fold these sides up, you're going to get that. Now again, there's several different ways to do this. So you could have actually made this where, since it looks like an equilateral triangle, you could have put this be a triangle. So when you fold that, that side kind of comes down here. So there's several different ways you can look at that one. A cone, this is one of my favorite ones. I start with the base, should be more of a circle. And when I said this, start with the base and draw the sides, you don't have to do that. I was just trying to think of a way to give you guys a starting point, because this one you could start with the sides and then put the bases on. But a cylinder is pretty easy because there's really, I mean, other than moving this circle somewhere else, there's really only one way to draw these cylinders. With a pyramid, that's the one that I think especially helps if you start with the base. And again, you don't need to, but we start with that base. And then from each one of these sides, we have a triangle. Now, that doesn't look the best ever, but it doesn't need to look professional. If you folded all those red sides up to me, they'd all meet at a certain spot. That would be that spot. Now, again, technically, you could have drawn one that looked like something like this. So these all sides, I guess it looks pretty similar. But there's several different ways to draw that. Now this one, I don't know if we're going to have to do much of this, but I added some lengths over here, so let's try to do that in ours. So in this one, I'm actually going to start with, let's start with the base over here. And that base is 3 by 2. Then we have a side off this, so that's 2 by 6. And then let's see. This side's got to be a little bigger. That's got to be 6 as well. But then this side is 3. Yeah. Same thing over here. We have 6 and 3 again. And then the last one we have that's going to end up being, I guess I would call it the top, but it's got to be 2 again. Because that's got to match up with this one. So basically, I guess I drew this 2 by 6 is this one, which means I need another 2 by 6 over here to be the top. And same thing with the other ones. This one would be 3 by 6. Then the one in front would be 3 by 6. Then the only other thing we need, another base over here, that is 2 by 3. Again, you could put it down here. It would just be 3 by 3, if you did it that way. That'd be right. I think so. So with the measurements, it's a little bit more difficult. I'm not going to really go into that right now. We may go over one of those a little bit later once we get a little bit better with this, but as for right now, we're just going to leave it like that. So now to draw 3-dimensional. So now we're going to do the opposite. They give you the net. You have to draw the 3-dimensional figure. So the best way to do this is to draw both bases, one in the lower left, one in the higher right, and then connect all the corners. So this is a pentagon prism. So I start by drawing a pentagon. So I put one kind of down here, and then I put one over up here, and you don't have to make them overlap. You can if you want. Then once you do that, you connect all the corners to the prospective corner. So this one connects to this corner. This one connects to this corner. This one connects to this corner. This one to this corner, and this one to this one. Now, if you want to be fancy and put some dotted lines, some of those dotted lines mean that they're kind of like inside. So this dotted line means it's behind that shape. You wouldn't be able to see it if it was a solid. Same with these dotted lines. You wouldn't be able to see these if it was like a block of wood, because you can't see through the wood. So if you want to be fancy like that, you can, but you don't have to. Now, pyramid, a square pyramid. So draw your base slightly flat. Now, I put that in parentheses because it's a square pyramid, so I would not start out by just drawing a square. I would draw it where you're kind of looking at it at an angle. So what I would do is I would make it almost look like a parallelogram. So it's a square, you're just kind of looking at it from a different angle. Then draw a point that's kind of up here in the air, and then draw all your lines to, all your corners to that point. Now again, I'm not going to be super finicky, so if you just draw a square and connect it this way, that's fine. Actually, that looks good if you want to do it like that. Whatever you want to do is fine. So number 5, this is, hopefully you realize it's a pyramid because all the sides are triangles. So I start with my base. It's a square, so again, I kind of start with my parallelogram. Then we have a point up here, and all these corners go up to that point. This one, hopefully you see a bunch of rectangles, which means it's going to be a prism, because the prism, the sides are all rectangles, and the bases are trapezoids. So again, I start with my trapezoid. Then I put another one up here, kind of to the upper right. And again, there's several different ways you can do this. Try to make those look the same. I didn't do a very good job with that. A little bit better. And then again, all you have to do is connect corners to their respective corners. That's it. This one should be easy. Now again, I draw the circles. I'm going to try to make them look kind of flat, so like ovals a little bit. And then the one we just talked about, this one's actually the same one we did earlier. We just are looking at the net now. So again, we have, these are 2 inches, 2 inches. So maybe I had the other one wrong. So basically, again, I would start out with the bases. And I would say those bases are 2 by 3. And then connect everything. And then each one of those sides is 6. And so that's how I'd organize that. I think that's honestly easier than going the other way around. Now, the last thing, this is going to be for later, but I want to kind of introduce you to this. This is going to help us find surface area. So surface area is the amount of material needed to cover the outside of a shape. So like if you have a box, the cardboard that makes up that box, that'd be the surface area. How much cardboard do you need to make this size of box? So we'll talk about this later, but you're going to have formulas for this, just like we did with the normal area. The formula for the surface area of a cube is 6a squared. A is the side length. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is because now if we have this, one way you can do it is 6a squared. So that's 6 times 5 squared. That's 6 times 25, which is 150. So that's the formula we're going to learn a little later. But the reason we talk about this net is because if we draw this cube, whoops, so I have, this is one of my bases, this is the other base, and so we're going to have one side, 2 sides, and then the top. So if we draw this base, every one of these is 5 by 5. This is 5 by 5, 5 by 5, 5 by 5, 5 by 5. This is 5 by 5, 5 by 5. So if you get the area of each one of these, just every square, that means this area is 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, 25, and if you look, there is 6 of them. So to find the area with the net is the same thing as using the surface area, because again, it's the same thing. The net, they just take it and flatten it out. So that's just kind of an introduction, and that's kind of why we use these nets. It's just another way to help us with that. So if you have any questions, please make sure you're emailing me. Please make sure you're letting me know.